Hi all, Dr. Clark here again, and today this is going to be the intro lecture for fish and wildlife management. And this lecture is geared for students who are taking the course for credit and are interested in knowing the material that's required for the course, some pointers about how to succeed in the course, and some mistakes that are often occur in online courses. Okay? For those individuals who are just watching the lecture series, Fish and Wildlife Lecture Series, for information, because it's on YouTube, you may get something out of this. Otherwise, you can just move to the next lecture, and that's where the content will start. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and talk about the required text for this course. There are two readers that are required for the course. One is Cod by Mark Kolansky, and the other one is Wildlife Wars by Terry Groves. We'll read all of Cod and the majority of Wildlife Wars. Hopefully, we'll get through Wildlife Wars. It will just depend on the pace at which students are going, whether or not we finish Wildlife Wars. But we'll definitely finish Cod. Both are easy reads and both are drastically different on kind of the way they approach fish and wildlife management. One is about the collapse of a species, cod, and one is about being a game warden and how, especially in the 80s and 90s, how being a game warden was a very dangerous job, and the kind of the trial and error that a U.S. Fish and Wildlife game warden goes through. Okay. So, first thing that I want to mention are two things that I request students do, and for that matter, anyone does, if they're interested in learning a chunk of material, whether that be a new subject, a new language, um, whatever it might be. If you want to learn something, there are two ways in which you can do it, or two things that you should do to make sure that you accomplish the task. The first thing is take notes. And I assure you that this seems common sense to many people, but when you're taking an online class, I think a lot of individuals disregard note taking. They don't do it, or they do it very poorly. And I can't put enough emphasis on the fact that you will be much better off, much more accomplished, if you take good notes in all your courses, including your online courses. So even though you'll see that the lectures for fish and wildlife management are going to be posted on YouTube, you can go back and you can watch them as many times as you like. The readings are there. You can go back and reread or skim through it again. The videos that I have you watch will be linked, so you can watch those, that kind of stuff. We'll do demo labs and things like that, and those will all be videotaped, so you can always go back. Right? So it's nothing like it's said and done. It's nothing like a live lecture where I lecture to you and then it's done, and in order for you to get that material again, you would have to come see me. Now, that being said, it's still very important for you to take notes, because most of you probably don't want to watch a 30, 45-minute lecture, not take any notes, and then have to watch a 30, 45-minute lecture again before the quiz or before the exam. Instead, why don't you just review your notes, and you can do that in 15, 20 minutes, and then move on and watch another lecture. Now, if you have to watch a lecture, that's great. The other thing that I always suggest that students find out how to take notes the way that they succeed at. Okay? So maybe you have friends, significant other something like that, or a professor that once taught you how to take notes. Now, I will tell you this, I'm not going to teach anyone how to take notes. I take notes very differently than other people do. Okay? I don't need very many notes. I just need highlighted words, like big words, and I have the capability of remembering what the rest of the material was. For some of you, you won't have that capability, and you really need to write every word down. Hey, great. That's why the lectures are videotaped, is so you can pause it and you can, take your time, write all the words down, etc., whatever you need. Okay? Some of you like to write, certain things and then highlight. Some of you want to type them out. Some of you want to just use notes on a phone. Okay? And like I said before, in the case of taking notes, it's an individualistic process. You have to find the one that works best for you. The great thing about undergraduate courses, especially the 1,000, 2,000 level courses, you really can benefit from trying new things, and you can build a good skill set. Because as you progress and you go into higher level courses, the material gets more difficult. There's more of it. And if you're a good note taker, by the time you make it into 3,000, 4,000 level courses, you'll find it much easier. But if it's when you're in 3,000, 4,000 level courses that you're now figuring out that you like to take notes in a certain way, then, you're kind of behind the curve. So again, take notes. The second piece is participate. Right? And I don't want to say it's any less important than taking notes. It's probably equally important, if not more important. Okay? Participation is going to be directly related to what you get out of a course, no matter what, whether it's fish and wildlife, gen bio, chemistry, physics, nutrition. It doesn't make a difference what the course is. The amount you participate, or the amount of participation you have in that course, it will be directly related to what you learn and the grade you earn. Okay? And, there's lots of ways to participate. For example, in class, if you're like this student here and you got your hand up, you're jumping out of your seat, hey, I know the answer to that. That's great. That's a great method. That's a great way to show the instructor, the teacher, that you're ready to learn. In an online situation, it's a little more difficult. But I'll tell you a couple things that you can do to show me that you're interested in the subject material, you're interested in learning, and that is, well, first of all, complete the assignments that are given in by the due date, and don't ask for extensions because there are none. Okay? Do well on quizzes, do well on exams. Of course, that shows me that you're interested in the material. But apart from that, when I say, hey, here's this extra reading, or hey, here's this extra credit, here's this video opportunity to watch this video series or something like that, take advantage of those. Now, I won't know unless you tell me. Well, of course, extra credit, I'd know that you would do it, but I wouldn't know if you told me, that you watched the video. So feel free, tell me, call me. You have my phone number, text me, send me an email. That's great too. It really makes no difference to me. If you have questions on material, if you have comments on material, leave comments, ask questions. All of that's very, a great way for me to understand that you're participating. Okay? I like to think of this just like when most of us were kids. Most of us, when we were kids, we did different activities. Maybe you were in sports, soccer, baseball, whatever it might be. Maybe you were in acting, theater, dance, gymnastics, something along those lines, band. Okay? And when you were in those activities, a lot of us, probably every single one of us, did an activity where you were not the star athlete, or you were not the star production or star vocalist or whatever it might be. So your participation was less than someone else. Okay. And in some cases, you might have been, second string, third string. And you might have got to participate in 25% of a play or 25% of a ball game. And a lot of people will look back on those situations and say, yeah, I only played 1/4 of every soccer, or one quarter of every soccer game. They typically break them into quarters when you're a kid, but and that was only 25% of the time. And you might say to yourself later on as an adult, if someone asked you, well, did you play soccer when you were younger? And you'd say, yeah, but I hated soccer. Okay, or I hated baseball, or I hated theater, or I hated band. And the reason why often we have those feelings towards that activity is because we didn't get to participate 100%. School is the same way. I assure you, if you don't put 100% into a course, and you come out and you only put 50% of effort, you only did 50% of what you should have done to succeed, you're going to come out and A, you're going to blame yourself, or B, you're going to blame the instructor for being too hard, too difficult, too much work. Okay? But essentially, you already know what's up front. You already know how much work's going to be up front. You can have the syllabus. You can see what's there. You'll have the notes and the lecture material and stuff like that. So there's no reason to say, hey, it was too much work. Now, if you're too busy to take a course, then you know that you should get out. Okay? But that's different. Okay, so participation, if you can give 100%, give it. If you can't because there's other things in the way, then maybe you're not ready to take that course. Okay? And we'll come back to this a lot because there are different ways to participate in an online course than there are in a live course. Sometimes it's a lot easier for me to know, that you're dedicated, you really want to learn material. In a live course, that's easier often than in an online course. So in an online course, I'll have you do certain things, okay? A little video clip, or call me, or do a Zoom session with me so I can pick your brain and see what you're up to, see what you want, why you're taking the class, what's your field of interest, and those kind of things. And that gives me a better feeling of how much participation you're going to be giving to the course. Okay. All right, some of you have had me before, or know about me and know that I'm not going to mix words. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to present you the facts. Okay? I'm going to present you the side of a controversy that has the most scientific evidence. And I will do this for fish and wildlife also. It might not be popular. Okay? And so if you don't like the truth because it pisses you off, because it goes against your religion, it goes against your political beliefs, it goes against the economy or economical output that you would want to see, it goes against what your dad, grandma, grandpa, whatever family wants you to believe, then that's what it is. Okay? I'm not here to change anyone. All I'm here to do is provide you with the evidence, provide you with the facts, and if both parties or if both sides of an issue have scientific evidence, I'm going to present it to you. Okay? And I'll let you judge which one has the more scientific evidence, or which one should be accepted more. Okay? And so that will come through. Most of you who are taking this course will probably not get too pissed off, but some of you, maybe on some issues, it will go against your current beliefs. And all I ask for is to do the same. In a discussion board, when I'm asking you a question, in science, your opinion is only as good as the data or the evidence that you can stand upon. On an exam, if you're answering a question, it's only as good as the evidence that you can provide in support. Okay? And so I would argue that in science, there is no room for just opinion without evidence. And so that includes discussion boards, those kind of things. If you don't have evidence to support it, I'm not going to give you credit. It's not a opinion class. It is a scientifically based opinion class where you're digging up information. You're providing the data for where your opinion is coming from. And you'll see this as we go. Okay. All right, so let's go through kind of a quick example about like how to study or the benefits of studying. And I like to use this example of kind of weight loss stuff. Okay, so scientific facts suggest that average American is about 15 pounds overweight. Okay, so that's evidence. Now I'm moving from information to knowledge. Okay, now we're going to apply that information. So if the average American is 15 pounds overweight and you want to lose 15 pounds before you go to Hawaii in 3 months, okay? So in December, you're going to go to Hawaii, or whenever you're going to go to Hawaii. It doesn't really matter. 3 months, whatever month it is, it doesn't really matter. 3 months away. You want to lose 15 pounds before you go. Okay? So we can ask and we can put it out there. Well, how are you going to do this? So we can do a workout schedule. And if we're going to work out every single day for 3 months, maybe you're going to do an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever it might be, okay? Then the likelihood that you lose 15 pounds is pretty good, especially if you're 15 pounds overweight. Now, let's say you can't dedicate every day, and you can only dedicate 3 times a week, and you can only dedicate 30 minutes on one day and maybe 45 minutes another and an hour on another. Okay? Well, the less effort that you put in, the less participation you put in, the less pounds you're going to lose. So maybe you're only going to lose 10 pounds. Still, for most people, 10 pounds, you're getting there. You're still making progress, right? Well, the same thing goes. Let's say you can't work out for the first 2 months, or you procrastinate and say, I'm not going to. Then all of a sudden you look at the calendar and your trip to Hawaii is 1 month away. So you decide, hey, I'm going to work out. Maybe, again, you can do 30 minutes a day, or maybe you can do 3 times a week, but you can only do 1 month. Okay? Now your weight loss might be around that 5-pound mark. Okay? From that standpoint, you still managed to lose. You still managed to accomplish a portion of the goal. Okay? However, your participation was not 100% for the 3-month period. Okay? Studying is the exact same process. It's the exact same thing. You want to earn an A in fish and wildlife management. If you put the time in every single day of the semester, you're most likely going to earn an A. Okay? And we'll talk about what kind of time that means. Okay? If you decide, hey, I can dedicate a couple hours a week, okay, for every month or for every week of the semester, okay, you might end up in that B range. Okay? If you decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to study, but I'm only going to study right before a quiz, right before an exam. I'm only going to do my assignment the day it's due. Then you might be in that C, D, or even F range because your level of participation is not 100%. Okay? The other fact I just want to let people know is it's not how much you study. So it's not how many hours you put in, it's also how you study. And I see a lot of students. I go to the library quite often, and I see students sitting at a table, they got books open, and they're studying. so-called studying. Okay? Or they may be even sitting by themselves and they have their cell phone out, and sure enough, on their cell phone is Facebook, and they have a book and Facebook open. Okay, no. Or they have earbuds in, and you can tell that they're listening to music. Okay, or if you're at home and you're watching TV, these are not methods of studying. Okay, these are methods to devote your attention or deprive your attention from studying process. Okay? Take for example, and go back to that weight loss situation. Let's say you go to the gym and you're going to work out from 8 to 9. And that's what you're dedicating. You're having 1 hour before you go to class, whatever it might be. So you enter the gym, and you enter it with your buddy. And you go, you're putting your shoes on, you're putting your gym clothes on, etc. You talk with your buddy a little bit, and you notice, 10 minutes go by. Okay? So they're, 10 minutes before your workout even starts. Then you jump on the treadmill or whatever it might be. Okay, you run for 20 minutes. Okay? Then you get off, go to the water cooler, get a towel, wipe off, etc. Well, the second you get off, so your buddy's getting off too, and you start talking again. Okay? And 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, okay, you're like, oh, hey, I got to go, lift some weights. And you go and lift weights, etc. for 10 minutes, and then you're done. Okay? Yes, you were there. You were at the gym for an hour. You only worked out for half an hour. That's 50% participation. Okay? It's the same thing when you're studying. If you're studying in between TV shows or commercial breaks or Facebook messages or tweets, or you're cramming the night before, these are not methods to study, not good methods to study. Okay? So it's not just how much you study, it's how you study. What's that distraction from you? And it doesn't, it could be kids, it could be, significant others. I mean, all kinds of things, pets, dogs, cats, whatever it might be, they can all distract you from the end goal. Okay? And just realize, and I'm not saying that you can get rid of those distractions. You're going to have those distractions. But don't claim to me, I spent 24 hours studying for your exam, when in actuality, okay, you might have spent 2 hours uninterrupted studying for my exam. The rest of the time, there was interruptions. Your cell phone was on, you're texting, whatever it might be. You had friends in the room, family in the room, these kind of things. That all takes away from the end goal. Okay? There's quite a bit of literature out there that states that multitasking is good for one thing: being average at both things you are trying to do, or below average at 3 things that you're trying to do. So individuals who multitask, yes, they get things done, but often at the compromise of quality. Okay? So you can multitask, you could probably watch TV and study, and you get a little bit of studying in, right? And a little bit of watching TV in, right? But neither one are you very good at. Otherwise, you just watch the TV and you'd understand what's going on, or study and you'd understand what's going on. Okay. All right. So this is kind of how I design my courses, and how I hope all college faculty, college instructors design their courses, especially in today's society. And that is, our job or our goal is to move students from obtaining information to obtaining knowledge. Okay? And so you will see I give you a lot of information in the course. And then I try to get you to use that information through assignments, quizzes, exams, tests, these kind of things, to apply that information so you can gain knowledge. The days are gone of having exams where you're just regurgitating, I hope, The days are gone. You're just regurgitating the information your instructor told you, the definitions of things that your instructor told you. Okay? Because that is at your fingertips. Almost everyone has a phone and has an internet connection, so you can just Google it. If I ask you what a von Bertalanffy growth curve is, Google it. And bam, there's a von Bertalanffy growth curve. Now, if I ask you to create one, manipulate one, okay, interpret one, that's very different. Wikipedia, Google, they're not going to tell you how to do that. They're not going to show you what manipulations would look like. They're not going to show you how to create one. They're not going to show you how to interpret one. They'll tell you what one is and what they're used for, okay? But that's general information. We're trying to, as professors, trying to get you to knowledge. Once you get to knowledge, it's not a very far step to get to wisdom. And wisdom is the end goal. You want to be wise with different subjects. Okay? That way, maybe you're looking up something on Google just because you forgot, a little bit of information, but you know how it's applied, and you know how it would be applied to different fields and the connection between those two. And that's really where wisdom comes in, is connecting dots, big picture ideas, and then applying it to original ideas, doing your own research in that field, interpreting other people's research and critiquing other people's research. And that's really the goal of obtaining wisdom. All right, so ways at which you can mess things up. The biggest one, the main one, is procrastination, especially in an online situation. If you procrastinate, you're taking your participation and you're decreasing it from 100. Okay? You're taking, in maybe 1 week, you don't do an assignment. Well, your participation in that assignment was 0. For the week, that means you're less than 100%. Okay? By doing that, that's procrastinating. Okay? And sometimes people just forget, but still, again, that's procrastination, or a form of procrastination, because you have too much on your plate, or you're not concentrating on learning the material every day. If you're concentrating on learning or participating in a course every day, you would never forget when something is due. All right, so I'm going to go through a few forms of procrastination. There's a lot of procrastination forms, but the reason why I like to do this is some of you will have or be one of these forms. You would be lumped into one of these groups. And the reason why I like to point this out is because maybe you've never thought about what kind of procrastination you have. There's ways to prevent these. And if you want some ideas about how to prevent being, this form of procrastination that you might fall under, text me, email me, give me a phone call, do a Zoom session with me, and I can provide you ideas about ways to break away from that form of procrastination. Okay? So let's look at a few of them. First, the perfectionist. Okay? And I get this quite often. I get students that will say, hey, I can't start studying until you tell me what to study, or what will be on the exam. Okay? Do you have practice problems? Do you have practice exams, etc.? I'm not going to start until I know exactly what I need to study. Well, I assure you, I'm not going to tell you that. Because here's the deal. I want you to be able to go from information, the material I give you in lectures, to knowledge, to applying that information. And if I gave you the exact exam question, or even the material that you might need to know because there's a question on the exam on that, then you might only study one way for that information to flow, from information to knowledge. Okay? You wouldn't be trying to think, and when you're studying, trying to picture, how is it that I'm going to use this information he gave me to answer a knowledge-based question. That's why I always say, hey, a good way to study for my exams is create your own exams. Okay? Create your own exams, your own practice problems, using the information I gave you, and try to apply it. Try to write a question in which you would need to apply a couple of those facts or a couple of that information and tie them together. That's a knowledge-based exam, and that's how I write my exams and quizzes. Okay? The hopper. I see this quite often, mainly in live students because I get to see how they're studying. But even in online students, I'll hear them chatter or they'll talk to people on discussion boards or email me and things like that. And that's really individuals that don't concentrate on studying the best way for them. Okay? So they might start making a note card or note cards and then abandon that, and they might start rewriting their notes and then abandon that, and they might start re-watching all the videos or lectures, and then they might ask their friends, then they might ask their professor, and down the line, after a few days, because they start this, a couple days before the exam, they really haven't studied all that much. Okay? It's a lot like if you went to the gym and you watched a guy or a gal and they go from treadmill for 5 minutes to stair stepper for 5 minutes to weights for 5 minutes to rowing machine for 5 minutes, and they just keep jumping around. They never reach peak heart rate. They never fatigue their muscles. And often they're not even breaking a sweat. By jumping around like that, you never complete anything. And that can be, have a huge disadvantage when you're studying because, everything's done partially. Now, again, I want to make sure that you understand, even in lectures and things like that, I don't call people idiots. I'm not referring to a single individual. Even if this is you, I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm calling the form of procrastination that you have idiotic, and it's labeled idiot. Okay? Therefore, I get this every once in a while, not as much anymore because people typically watch these videos before we chat, and that's individuals will come to me and they'll say, hey, no one ever told me how to study, or I don't know how to study. Well, I'm going to tell you this. No one ever told me how to study either. And you don't have to be told how to study. What you have to do is you have to try methods of studying until you find the one that's best for you. Now, I can give you 1,000 methods of studying, and I will. If you call me up or email me and say, hey, what's a method for studying? I can give you a bunch. Okay? But that makes no difference. If you're not going to dedicate and participate in those methods, it makes no difference if you try them. You might try them for a few minutes and realize, hey, I have other things to do, like watch Netflix, and this is boring. And then you might come back to me and say, oh, that method doesn't work for me. Okay? It's not about someone telling you how to study. It's about studying, about doing it. Lazy. This is probably by far the biggest one that I get on an online course. Okay? I get people that say, well, I never had to study before. In high school, I never studied. Okay? Or I get people say, I have other things that are more important than studying. Okay, well, if other things are more important than studying, that means other things are more important than this course. You shouldn't have took the course. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You should drop the course. If you're going to dedicate your time and your money to a course, then other things are not more important. Okay? And I realize people are busy. Okay? I realize people have jobs and they need to make money to feed their family or feed themselves, pay their rent, etc. I realize that people have families. Okay? But if you're going to college, then you have to have enough time to participate at 100% or whatever it might be that you need to participate in order to earn the grade that you're interested in. If you're interested in only a C, the participation that you need to apply to this course is less than if you want to earn an A. Okay. And that's going to be my conversation that I have with someone who says, well, I couldn't finish this assignment because I had to take my kid to the doctor, I had to take my kid, to things like that. Look, I understand. I have two children. Okay? I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. Okay? They go to the doctor and I take them to the doctor. Okay? But you also know that my assignments will be open for 7 days. And unless you had to take your kid to the doctor every single day for 7 days, which if that occurs and you're in the hospital for 7 days, I need documentation that says, hey, look, I'm in the hospital for 7 days. They won't let me use the internet. Therefore, I can't do my assignment. Okay? But if it's, hey, the assignment's due today and I had to take my kid to the hospital, well, I'm sorry. You had the assignment for 6 other days. Okay? That kind of information, that kind of process, you have to anticipate. I suggest to everyone, do not procrastinate to the very last day, because on the very last day, you don't know what's going to happen. Your computer could break, your internet could go down, okay? Your child could get sick, your dog could get run over, okay? Whatever it might be, unfortunately, those events happen, okay? And I don't like to sound harsh, but those events do happen, they do occur, and it's part of, that participation pay every single day, a little bit to succeed, and then you wouldn't have an issue come the final day where you haven't done the assignment, you didn't take the quiz, or you didn't get to take the exam. Measures. So measures are a form of procrastination that I often see in very competitive classes. Okay? And that would be that one individual knows another individual. And so they'll often say, hey, I'm, not as good as so-and-so. Or I know that so-and-so got an A. I don't want an A. I don't care about getting an A. So I'm going to do half as much as what they did for studying. Okay. Or so-and-so hasn't studied yet and our grades are identical to each other. So that's what I'm going to do, is start studying when they do. Okay. Measure is a horrible way to get into, or procrastination event to fall into, because no two people are the same. Even identical twins do not learn the same, because a lot of the way you learn, a lot of the material you pick up is from previous experiences. It's from that nature piece, okay? And nature being like, what environment were you raised in, or what environment did you grow up in? Okay, it can be part nurture. In other words, did your parents teach you, um, you know, a method of studying or a method of procrastination, not knowing that they were teaching you this? Or, did your parents pitch you against your best friend when you were kids and say, oh, well, Billy's a better baseball player than you are, so you need to try harder, or Billy's getting better grades than you. So sometimes that comes from a nurture point of view. Other times it comes from a nature point of view, like the habitat that you were raised in, not necessarily your genetics. If you have procrastination that is genetically controlled, a lot of these are learning disabilities that are lumped into a procrastination, which we can talk about if on an individual basis, if that's the case. Futurists, they're my favorite to talk to, because I love to hear students say, well, employers don't look at grades. And there, a lot of students are a little bit surprised when I say, you're absolutely right. Employers don't look at grades. But what they do look at is, how far did you get? Okay? And what you might want to look at is, how much money do you want to pay? Okay? So your GPA starts slipping because you decide, hey, C's get degrees, right? And then you decide, Hey, I don't really want to pay for college anymore. Well, good luck getting a scholarship if you say C's get degrees. Okay? There are very, very few scholarships out there that a 2.0 is gonna cut it. Even a 2.5 or even a 3.0, um, they're not that great of scholarships. Grad schools will look at your application if you're going to go to grad school. Anything under a 3.0, you don't really have a chance. Okay? It's very difficult to get into a grad school if you don't have a 3.0. So grades do matter, especially at this level. At this, lower level, that's what you build on for your upper level classes. That's where you get scholarships and grants and internships and things like that, where you're like, hey, I don't like paying for college, or I want to work in this guy's lab or this gal's lab. And here they can see, hey, I earned an A in fish and wildlife management. I want to go work for Game and Fish. They're going to look at your transcripts if they're going to hire you for an intern. They're going to ask your professor how you work. Right? Now, if you go to work for them after you earned a master's degree, then they don't really look at it. So employers don't look at grades, you're right. But to get to where you want to be, your grades matter. Yeah? All right. The dumb listeners, the last one. Again, I'm not calling people dumb. I'm calling the act of listening to your friends, like Bill saying, hey, it won't be on the exam. Well, unless Bill has it in writing from me that I said it wasn't going to be on the exam, Bill's lying to you. Okay? And so those kind of things that's not a way to procrastinate. Okay? And that's not a way to approach studying, is by cramming because your friends are cramming, or ignoring material because your friend said it's not going to be on the exam. In the end, this is the main message I want to send to everyone. Just study. Okay? Find a way that works for you. Find a way that you're comfortable with, and keep doing it. The more you do it, the easier it will be. I often hear students that leave undergrad and go into grad, or they leave their 1,000, 2,000 level courses and move into their grad courses, and they say, man, upper division courses are so much easier, or grad school is so much easier. It's not easier, it's harder. The reason why it's easier is you're smarter. The reason why it's easier is you've developed skills to learn how to study, skills to move from information to knowledge faster, and then applying knowledge to wisdom in a lot of fields. And that's why grad school for a lot of people, at least the classwork, is easier, or even upper divisions courses are easier. It's because you've already got that foundation that you can fall back on it. You've already heard it before, not once, not twice, maybe 3, 4, 5 times, okay? And you've studied it, and it will, add to the ability to obtain more knowledge, and then move the knowledge to wisdom as you go. All right, so with that, okay, again, lectures will be posted on Facebook. I use Facebook as a means to upload lectures, mainly because individuals throughout the world might want to watch these. If they do, that's great. But also, students who are taking my courses, there is never, okay, knock on wood, there has really never been a situation where YouTube went down. Okay, YouTube is always up, even during periods of maintenance. There you have a maintenance schedule that runs while you still can access the videos. Okay, that is not the case with many platforms that institutions, colleges use. When their maintenance goes, their programs go down, and you can't access that material. Okay? So again, if you want to subscribe, you can. All that subscribe is going to do is, as long as you click on the bell, every time I add a video, it'll send you a notification. This is really handy if you're using or in multiple courses. It tells you, hey, new video's up. Okay, you got time to watch that 30-minute video? Go do it. Okay? All right, till next time, and we'll talk to you soon.